Esto yo lo recomiendo siempre, que es combustible para el espíritu, queridos. Miren, si usted vive en una ciudad, usted necesita esto una vez a la semana, una vez al mes o una vez al año, pero lo necesita. Es silencio, oxígeno y lo más importante, agua. Agua. Water. It's the same, you know, agua y water. Por eso los quiero invitar a Estados Unidos, porque allá existe un programa de monitoreo y de vigilancia de las zonas protegidas, de las zonas marinas protegidas en la costa de California, en Estados Unidos. Vamos a ir a conocer a nuestros amigos de Waterkeeper, guardianes del agua.
So the Waterkeeper movement is almost 350 waterkeepers all over the world patrolling our rivers, our creeks, our coastal waters, and essentially acting as watchdogs. And it dates back actually to the 1960s in the Hudson River in New York. And these commercial fishermen who weren't what a lot of people think of as modern environmentalists. These were tough guys, commercial fishermen. They had been mostly Marines, had fought in the Korean War, and they had come back, and this was the time when we started seeing these environmental destruction all over the world. And they came back to go back to fishing, and the Hudson had been so polluted that it became illegal to catch and sell fish on the Hudson. And these guys started banding together and saying, okay, what are we gonna do? And they started suing some of the biggest companies in the world, GE and Standard Brand Paint and General Motors. And when they started bringing these lawsuits and stopping these polluters, these laws actually had bounty provisions. They collected money, and they hired one of these commercial fishermen, John Cronin, and they built a boat, and they started patrolling the Hudson, and they called that person the River Keeper. And the notion was really that this person was going to be going up and down the Hudson River looking for pollution, being the guardian of that waterway. And that was the birth of the International Waterkeeper movement. That was about 1999. At LA Waterkeeper, there's a few areas we work on. So we have 3 campaigns that we focus on. One is pollution prevention. That's stopping sewage spills, urban runoff, industrial pollution. And we do use a lot of enforcement to do that. So that's our pollution prevention. Secondly is our Healthy Habitats campaign. That's okay, beyond just stopping the ongoing harm, how do we actually get our rivers and our creeks and our coastal waters back to be healthy, functioning ecosystems? And that's things like some of the actual restoration work we've done in our coastal waters through kelp reforestation. That's the adoption of marine protected areas to bring our coastal areas back to health.
Today we were out on a marine protected area boat-based survey trip documenting human activity in and around restricted fishing areas called marine protected areas. These areas were put into effect to try to curb the human tendency to overconsume the offerings of our ocean. So these areas are restricting fishing in an effort to create a more sustainable way of working with the planet and changing human behavior. And today we found most people abiding by the new regulations, but we did come across one person fishing in an MPA. As I did yesterday, I came across 3. So I don't know that people are deciding not to change their behavior because after they know the laws or whether they don't know the laws. So we are out there documenting the behavior and then informing those folks who are violating the laws what the laws are and where they can fish in a very good neighbor Bob way. So these areas that are curbing human consumption allow these species of fish that live in those areas to reproduce. So if we leave these fish in those areas to get bigger, older, and fatter, they'll produce more offspring, and therefore we'll have more biomass in the ocean, and that will sustain human life as well. So we're interconnected with how much life is being produced by the ocean. But without the restraints put in by laws, humans have the tendency to just take as much as they possibly can. What I've personally witnessed is an area that I worked on for almost 7 years, restoring the kelp forest in an area that became then a marine protected area. And prior to it being restored to a kelp forest, the kelp forest restoration, I saw literally would dive and see no fish. The kelp came back, we started seeing fish. Now we go down there and dive because it's a marine protected area and there is kelp. We've seen quadruple amount of biomass in this specific area that we went down today, down off of at the Point Vicente Marine Protected Area, because it's not being fished and because the kelp is there, where 700 species of fish and invertebrates live and survive. They're reproducing, they aren't being sucked out by humans. They're actually an abundance of species that were there, and then we're seeing new species that weren't there prior, like within the past 15 years. And if you keep that intact, and we honor what Mother Nature is and don't mess with it, and honor what it gives us, and then work with our role as one with Mother Nature rather than as an entity that uses Mother Nature. I think that's the shift that we need, a shift in consciousness to realize that what we are is part of a big picture and part of an interactive, related, interconnected, co-creative process. And once we start tweaking it, we're affecting it, and usually not in a very good way.
There's a tremendous number of exciting things happening in LA. There are these efforts underway to restore our local waterways. There are these efforts to invest in more sustainable local water supply options, wean ourselves off of imported water. So there's a lot that's going on. LA Waterkeeper, I'm really proud, is at the middle of a lot of those activities. And I think over the next 20 years, we can really reshape LA. And like I said, if we can do it here, it could be a model for every major city throughout the world.